Dave, thanks for joining me. I greatly appreciate it from Seattle. Beautiful sight line there.
Yeah, I got some guys out here that know how to take pictures, man. And anytime you can see the big Mountain Rainier, I call it the big mountain, came out to play that day.
Oh,
And to
that's
get
not
to
your
look
living
at,
room?
yeah, no,
That's not the view
no,
from.
I'm doing okay, but I'm not doing quite that okay. You can see the stadium, the purple thing down there about 3 o'clock. That's T-Mobile Park, my home away from my home away from home. It's all good.
Yeah. And so, growing up in Philadelphia, obviously you want to be a sportscaster, I imagine, but being the play by play man of the Seattle Mariners, I'm sure is not even on your radar. How do you end up becoming the play by play guy of the Mariners? I know you've stopped at ESPN and NBC and CBS, or you've been everywhere, but
Yeah, those national jobs led to a lot. Long story short, I interned at the Inquirer, New York Daily News, full time for 7 years, got into broadcasting. And then I always wanted to do play by play. Temple University was my launching point. 1990, did play by play for them. A few months later, in February 91, I'm on ESPN, which led to Westwood One doing NFL, college, the NCAA tournament. I did CBS, the NCAA tournament. So, people see you, they like you, and one sort of leads to another, maybe one back, two forward, that kind of thing. And the short story of it is the guy who's now my boss was the marketing director at the Mariners. He had gone to school with my brother-in-law at Syracuse. When they were doing radio, I did liners for him because at that time I was at WNBC Radio, had my own sports talk show at night. Flash forward to like 06. Hey, Ron Fairley's retiring. They got an opening. Boom, put in, beat out 100 guys. And I done baseball at ESPN. I'd done 93, 94, 04, 05. I'd done some baseball there. And MSG Network had done some baseball there. So I always wanted to do baseball, and I had the pleasure of doing basketball and football for a lot of years.
Why baseball? I mean, baseball is hard in the sense where you have to weave in so many stories, and there's no true ending to baseball, right? I mean, baseball could go, 19 innings on any given night when you just want to get home, on a road trip for 10 days. And so why baseball when it's every day? It's an amazing sport. I love it, but it's every day where football is once a week.
I think you just answered it right there. It's every day. I love the sport. First sport I fell in love with. I mean, growing up in North Philly, my father took me to the park. I used to go to his games. When he worked at the main post office at 30th Street, they had some great softball leagues and basketball leagues with majority of the guys had gone to historically black colleges and universities. They were good athletes. Maybe they might have been second or third stringers, but they were good athletes. They wanted to continue to play. And living where I did in North Philly, I could look out. I could go out on my stoop and turn to see if the Phillies were home. I'd see the lights were on. That's how close I was to the ballpark. So, when I was from 5, I was going to 10, 15 Phillies games a year. I was going to at least 1 or 2 Eagles games a year for a lot of years. And then we got season tickets. I'd go see NBA double headers at Convention Hall. So I'm where I'm supposed to be calling sports. And then baseball was the last thing to really check off my list in terms of doing something on a consistent basis after doing basketball and football for so many years.
You make it sound
it worked out well. I'm in my 16th year here.
No, it's an amazing run. And these jobs, as are so difficult to get. I call them unicorns. But you make it sound so simple how you got the Mariners job, but you don't realize there's hundreds and hundreds or thousands of hours worth of work and trying times. Are there points in your career where you're going, I don't know if this is going to make it? Did you have moments like that? I look at your career, it's so accomplished from doing play-by-play, college, professional, NFL, NBA. It goes on and on and on. But are there moments where you just go, I don't know if this is going to work out?
No, I have more moments of thank God that this worked out. That especially being when you look at it from this vantage point, my vantage point, there are very few African American play-by-play guys in the business. Very few sports anchors, or more now than say 30 years ago, 40 years ago for sure. But play-by-play in the history of Major League Baseball, I'm like the 6th guy to have a team.
Wow.
In the history of broadcast television, all right. And I also do radio. I do probably 65%, 70% TV the other time on radio. I'm less than a dozen, dude. So I probably spend more time going, hey man, thank you very much. Thank you for my parents. thank you from my grandparents. They got out of the South right around World War I. My father was the eternal optimist. Hey, you can do whatever you want. Just suck it up. There are certain things that are going to maybe be a deficit. Maybe you're not going to be able to hang with these guys. You're not going to be able to do, party time, hangout time. But I like going to work, and it has worked out really well. I mean, 3 times I've been voted the Washington State Broadcaster of the Year. So I must be doing something right. And I thank my parents. I thank the man above for everything. And I love the work, man. Get in early, stay late. And as for baseball, thank God the new rules. We won't hopefully never see a 19-inning game again. I'm sort of a baseball purist, but in terms of like the games now average 3 hours.
Right.
I find nothing romantic about people say free baseball when it's gone extra. That's nonsense.
Right.
I like the ghost runner. I didn't think I would, but the ghost runner on somebody score that guy, defend it. If you don't win, if you do, great. So
yeah, there was a Phillies game the other day that started at like 1:05. Then there was a rain delay in the 6th inning, and it was already 4:30, and they didn't pick up till after 5. And you're going, I almost took my daughter to that game, and I'm going, we would have been there probably from noon until 8 o'clock at night. And you go, you're trying to expand the sport, make it popular as football has excelled and basketball and things like that, where, you call it America's pastime in baseball, but are you losing those people? But, going to your childhood, I mean, you look at the way things turned out for you, your parents saying that, what your dad said, you can do whatever you want. They had to be incredibly proud. And,
no question. I mean, hey, suck it up. It ain't going to be easy. But suck it up and do what you got to do. Make the contacts, build the relationships, work on your craft, be good at it. Make sure that, there's nothing they can second guess about your hiring. Keep a clean reputation. I mean, that's a reason why, I've been able to work at multiple places for the last, it's a long time now. I mean, coming up next year, I think it'll be a half century working in the sports media business. So I'm pretty grateful and proud of what I've been able to accomplish with a lot of help from a lot of good people. I mean, I could sit here for an hour and thank people who helped me along the way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're only sometimes as successful as the people around you that vouch for you and advocate for you. And when you look at what you've done, and, I think you said you're one of only a handful of, African-American play-by-play men in Major League Baseball.
And in general too, when you look at the other sports, it's not like there's an Oklahoma land rush of dudes out there who are African Americans. You know what I mean? I mean, in basketball, you probably got 5 or 6 guys. A couple of guys maybe working teams. The NFL radio guys. For the longest time, I was the only black guy calling NFL games on radio, national or local. I mean, it's not like it's not like that door's been busted totally down. And I can remember. I mean, I've come so close to a couple, 3 other jobs. Let's see, 2 in the NFL and a couple in baseball. And it's amazing, the little things that you hear. You eventually, if you don't hear it immediately, you hear it later. One guy, some producer, took the word of some dude who I worked with, but he wasn't in a boss capacity. He was more of a colleague. And he listened to this guy who didn't like me, and this producer bought it, and it cost me an NFL. I mean, he was like, really? An NFL radio job. So meanwhile, I had the likes of Bob Costas, Bob Trumpy, and all these other guys vouch for him. So I was like, it's a crazy business. What can I tell you?
Well, it's so fickle too, and I compare this business to dating, right? Like, you go, how is she with him, or why is he with her? Sometimes it's timing, and sometimes you just can't explain it. That's why I compare it to dating. And some people are married for a long time, some people to short time, some people you go, how are they together? That's the closest comparison that I can make.
Well, and to that point, it's the same thing. Like when crazy stuff happens in baseball and you can't explain it, the answer is that's baseball.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's pretty incredible. I mean, you have to be proud of that. I mean, to be one of only a few. And so, I mean, do you think about that a lot and go, wow, I mean, you ever have moments, I know you get locked into the game, but do you have moments where you just look around and go, wow, look how far I've come?
Oh, yeah. Not only that, but when you start hearing from younger kids who are like in college or just out of college, or dudes who are in the minor leagues and looking for a break, hey, man, I catch your work all the time. I like your work. Can you critique it tape? And, you know, I've vouched for a few guys already. A young black kid out of the University of Missouri. I vouched for him, and he got a gig at, he got it was a one-off, but it was great opportunity on MLB Network to do some things. So a lot of guys come, you know, black and white. Hey man, could you critique my tape?
Sure.
I like your style. You know, I can't, you know, then you get the other, you know, things on social media from fans. I mean, everybody has their haters, but you have other people say, hey man, you're the voice of my youth. I'm like,
Well,
really? I'm going like this. Who are you talking to me? Yeah.
Well, look, I grew up listening to you call games, and look, not for the Mariners, but calling games, national. Yeah. And so your voice, when I hear your voice, it's a special sound, and, you know, you can hear it. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, just because you're someone that I kind of, you know, and I don't want to date myself or each other, but it's a voice that I've heard growing up, and a very familiar, calming voice that, you know, hey, you can throw on TV for 3 hours unscripted and you're not going to mess up, and you're going to deliver it.
Little things make me nuts, but yeah, I catch myself. Sometimes I get that, you know, being a Northeast corridor guy, Philly, New York guy, sometimes, you know, how we tend to speak a little bit quickly sometimes.
Too fast.
We get out in front of ourselves every now and then. But
yes,
yeah, I've learned how to pump the brakes, and that's one of the things I tell kids all the time. If you get to that point, you know, find a break, and throttle down, and start all over, work your way back up. And the other thing too, when you do make a mistake like that, you know, Don Criqui told me this, you know, don't bring it up, because it probably went past most people anyway. And don't beat yourself up for no more than about 5 to 10 seconds. Right. Because it's already up to Pluto and nobody cares.
Right. Well, yeah. And like my wife always said, my wife's from the Midwest, and she always says to me, slow down, you know, because I'm an East Coast guy. Slow down, smile more, slow down. Yep. And she's right. And, you know, I always think about it when I go on vacation. If I go on vacation to Florida or the Caribbean or Mexico, it takes me a day to adjust to their speed. It's kind of the same thing. And but in getting back to the baseball stuff, baseball allows you also to take your time. I mean, it allows you because, it's a different rhythm. There's a different rhythm to baseball and, you know, maybe golf as there is to basketball and football, or, you know, obviously hockey.
Hey man, you know, it for years, there was a period, about 8 years, where I would go, spring training in February, March. And then September would come and I'd start doing football. And I'd do 2 weeks. And it would be like, I'd go from, here's the two pitch down low. And then, you know, you lay out, you don't say anything. Or maybe you throw a question or make an observation with your partner. And then that first 2 weeks of the NFL season, 3rd down and 6 for Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers at their 44-yard line. It's a 3-0 game here, you know, and all of a sudden the pace goes, and you're in the left lane, man, and you're rolling. And then when I'd come back to Seattle and do games, and I'd like, pull it back. Yeah, man. So that was a nice challenge, and that was the other thing. The other thing, I've been very lucky doing baseball. I mean, doing baseball on TV and on radio, 2 different things. I mean, radio, you got to describe everything. TV, your caption service. So you can let it. I mean, you want it to breathe a little bit on radio too. You don't have to like fill it wall-to-wall sound. But TV, you can go 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds sometimes not saying anything because there's nothing going on.
Which is a long time. I mean, when you to someone that's not in broadcasting, 30 seconds, you're like, oh, that's nothing. But count that and just sit there. It is a weird, it can be a weird.
Well, Mr. Skelly, God rest his soul, when he did Henry Aaron's 715, you know, they say that he took his headphone off and walked to the back of the room and poured a cup of coffee, and he laid out for 40 seconds while the crowd was nuts, and the director took all the shots. And I did that last year, game 161. Mitch Haniger hit a 2-run single to put us in front of the Angels, kept us alive that night, and I went nuts for 10, 15 seconds. I laid out for about 15 seconds, and the crowd was, and the director, man, they were punching up shots left and right. I just got the hell out of the way.
Right. And sometimes that's the best thing. Like, I just love, you hear Joe Buck doing that as well. He's good at that. Just let the moment speak for itself. And, I always say, the play-by-play guy or the anchor is directing traffic. is just directing traffic and just going, just sometimes less is more.
Yes,
And,
without a doubt. The late great Marty Glickman, who's the rabbi, the godfather of so many of my generation and generation ahead of me, sportscasters in New York, and he said, when you lay out, it grabs the attention of the listener, because now the listener's like, wow, what's he going to say next?
Right.
Coming next.
Right.
Like that anticipation. And you're like, and if you're in the car, you're like, you're driving along and you hear, then it dies down. Then you come back, what a home run. It's so-and-so hit that thing. What, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool, though. I mean, you're the first baseball announcer to call 2 perfect games in the same season. How insane is that? You never know on any night what's going to happen, but that's insane. Yeah. That was insane.
The first one, April 21 of 2012, I was doing a game. Kenny Albert also does Rangers hockey. I was doing Rangers, I want to say radio at that time. They made the playoffs. And our game was a backup game to Yankees Red Sox. So he, and the Rangers are in the playoffs, so Kenny couldn't make it. And I get a call, hey, can you pick us up and do that game? Yeah, I'm going to be going anyway. Next thing I know, I'm working with Eric Karros, and we get to the 8th inning. We got a perfect game going, and Karros is getting TO'd because, wait a minute, I know it's the Yankees Red Sox, but we got a perfecto here. Come to us. He was all over that and everybody. They finally come to us. That was great. The other one was August 15, 2012. Felix Hernandez 1-0 over Tampa Bay. That was 100 times more special because it was our guy. Felix was at his peak of his power, part of his great run, and it was super exciting. Now, a lot of people say, the only TV guy to call 2 perfectos. I know that's in my Wikipedia page, but I swear, Mr. Scully, I know he's called perfectos and no-nos. I don't know if maybe he didn't have 2 in 1 year, but I know I have 2 in that year. So,
well, I don't know if it's in the baseball almanac, but it's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And so, I guess it's been tough in Seattle. I mean, what is the level of frustration? There hasn't been a lot of great seasons. There's been a lot of great moments. We've had a lot of great players, but what is kind of like what's the word I want to put here is the feeling in Seattle as far as antsy, pain. What would you describe it? Because there's been no World Series. There's been no AL pennants.
World Series. Let's start with the playoffs. That's what we're trying to get to this year.
Right.
I had my share of 90 loss seasons, 100 loss seasons, 17-game losing streak. Now I know what by some felt like when he was doing the Phillies and the A's back in the late 40s, early 50s. This town will go nuts if we can make the playoffs. We're absolutely mine. We're just coming off a couple of a disappointing road trip against 3 losing teams. We only go 5-4, 7-2 was the goal. You got the Nationals starting tonight, tomorrow, and then we got a good Cleveland team coming in. So we got something like 25 games against sub 500 teams. We got to win a high percentage of those games and then hold our own against the teams that are plus 500. It's a good baseball town, wanting to be a great baseball town. If the Mariners could just be consistent in winning and get to the playoffs on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms of football and basketball, we need the NBA back. Can't wait. But I'm telling you, this place, I got a lot of guys, a lot of our colleagues. Dude, Simsy, we're rooting for you guys. Please make the playoffs. Come on. Americans love the underdog story. We'll be America's darling at least for 24 hours if we make it.
Well, there's been so many great players. I mean, like, Randy Johnson and Ken Griffey and Alex Rodriguez, Felix Hernandez. Ichiro, right. Sure, of course. And so you just go, how could those teams, how could Seattle have the longest playoff drought in baseball?
Yeah, that 0-1 team had hitting like you can't believe, in the pitching. Our pitching, they had this year's pitching staff. That team could have won the World Series. I mean, they had Randy Johnson and Frank. And matter of fact, the 0-1 team, Junior was already gone. Mike Cameron was in center field and did a great job. Like I said, we've had some great players here. And then, I've been through 5 or 6 managers, I think. And Scott Service is in his 7th year, but man, I've been through a bunch. And so this year was the most promising in recent memory in terms of, and where we are like today, here we are coming up on late August, positioned just right. We're one of the 3 teams right now. If the playoffs started today, but we'd be in a playoffs today.
Yeah.
So, and when you get this close, man, you want to kick the door down,
Yeah, and you do have promising players. I mean, you look at what Julio Rodriguez did last year as a rookie. And I mean, the ceiling is, I imagine, endless for this kid, right? I mean,
Yeah,
what,
he's a real
21?
deal. 21. He's going to be a 2020 guy. He's got 21 stolen bases. He's got, what, 19 home runs. He's hit 270, 275, playing a really good center field. Energy like you can't believe. And for you baby boomers out there, he has the energy of a Mays, of a Clemente, that type of thing. And he's got big time ability, five-star tools that he eventually, if everything goes right, keeps his head on straight, stays healthy, man, there's no telling where he's going to go.
And then, they make that deal for Luis Castillo. I mean, that's a nice addition. I mean, do you like what they did?
Stud. We didn't get any runs for him the other day in Oakland, but he's a stud. I mean, he is a number one. You leave him alone, he's going 8. Get out of his way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so do you feel like they have the pieces, like this will be the year where, Seattle can erupt with playoff baseball for the first time in, 21 years?
Right. Here's the thing. Julio at the top. Ty France is in a brutal slump right now. Hopefully he comes out of that. We got just enough hitting. Defensively, we're as good or better than anybody. The bullpen's a top 2-3 in baseball. And we're already hearing from some guys that are like, we would not want to have to play you guys in playoffs, with your starters. Because, you mentioned Castillo, you got Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Marco Gonzalez. So between Kirby and Gilbert, two very young kids, and Kirby's a rookie from just north of New York City, I think you can put, it's a good starting trio for that first series, a wild card series. And then once you go from there, we'll see what happens. But, beat the Yankees 4 out of 6 in a 10-day period. Flip side,
you're struggling against the bad team.
Yeah. We lose 2 out of 3 at Texas. We lose 2 out of 3 at the A's. What are you kidding me? The A's have the second worst record in baseball. So,
I always go like, how do you figure that out? I never know. I've seen the Phillies do that and other teams, and I go, I don't understand.
Somebody, I forget what manager it was or some coach, but it put it so, it says, the other team is trying to.
Right.
Yeah, and the other, that baseball adage, an axiom, you got 162 games. You're going to win 60. You're going to lose 60. What you do with the other 42 determines your fate.
Right.
It really does come down to it. And if you can stay healthy, you got a fighting chance. You look at Houston, they got Lance McCullers back. They already had a great starting rotation, a good bullpen. They can hit. They haven't hit as well as they have in the past, but plenty good enough. I mean, they scored 21 runs against Chicago recently. So against the White Sox, team to beat in the American League. Do
you feel calling games night in and night out, traveling with the team, being there for every inning? Do you feel like there's something special here right now? I mean, of all the seasons you've done Mariners baseball, do you feel like this is the year? I mean, I feel like the American League West Coast teams don't get a lot of love because they're on so late.
Exactly.
But do you feel like
a different team? This is a good group. And, when you talk about team togetherness, cohesion, that kind of stuff, analytically, you can't really measure it. It matters. I mean, not everybody can be the 72-3-4 Oakland A's who are fighting every day and they go out and kick everybody's butt. But it helps. It's a heck of a lot better when there's cohesion, there's unanimity. Guys do care for each other. They bust their butt for each other, and they're producing on the field. So I'm hoping that this homestand, this is a heck of a homestand because they got to win both games against Washington, and they got 3 games against Cleveland. So 3 games against a good Cleveland team that is starting to surge. So it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun.
Greatest Mariner of all time.
It's still Junior, but Junior. I mean, Edgar Martinez. Might put Intro on Scotia ahead of Edgar Martinez, Randy Johnson. Felix, that's 5 right there. That's a pretty good 5.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. And so one of the things, going back to your broadcasting career, you're known for your catchphrases on the Mariner broadcasts. Do you have a favorite one? Do you have like the one you're going, yes?
Yeah, the one. Well, when Nelson Cruz was here, because his nickname was the Boomstick, and I stole this from the late Bob Leonard, who was when Reggie Miller was hitting threes for the Pacers. Reggie for 3, boom, baby. So I cheesed that a little bit to Boomstick, baby. when Nelly would hit a home run. The other one, because I grew up, child of the 50s and 60s, grew up on Westerns. Ball that really gets hit hard, and it looks like it's going to get out. Like, giddy up, baby, giddy up, gone. You do one of those. So
Right.
Those are the two that come to mind. I got a couple. I don't even, I'm more conscious of those two. Some of the others, they just happen. A lot of it's organic.
We're all hard on ourselves, and sometimes it's hard to watch and listen to our own broadcasts and watch this and that. When you do those catchphrases and you're taking a chance, if you just want to be yourself, you're taking that chance and doing something like that. It may catch on, it may not. Do you have ones that became really popular that you actually cringe over, or no? Do you not have?
Not really. The boom. I tell you what I did do when I thought of Boomstick Baby after Sonelli got here. What year was that? 16 or 17. And I asked my two sons, who are big sports fans. They're born and raised in New York, but they're heavy sports fans. I said, I'm thinking about doing this with Nelly Cruz. Oh yeah, I like it. Yeah, go ahead, I like it.
Okay.
With Nelly, and I said, I'm thinking about using this for your home runs. He said, oh yeah, oh please. So about 2-3 weeks into that season, when I started doing that, somebody had given him a mashup, and I walk in the clubhouse. Come here. He gets his phone out, and he goes like this, and he has 5 or 6 home run calls. Here's the pitch. Here's Nelly. Swing on, driven deep to left. There he goes. Boom, stick, baby. And to this day, every time I see him, and if he sees me, he shouts that. Even Manny Actor, third base coach, he'll drop that on me every now and then. So that's probably my favorite. Giddy Up's the second one. I don't know. I've done a couple others, but right now,
Yeah,
it has to be in the moment. And sometimes
you don't feel you have to perform for me.
I mean, it's not like I'm going like this. Let's say page 52. One of them kind of deals. It has to be organic. It has to be. It can't be stilted. It can't be.
Right.
It has to flow. It has a flow to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate. Great insight to your career and